So what would you do if you could focus for 16 hours a day? Would you focus on building a business? Would you focus on going to the gym? Or would you focus on serving God? For whatever you choose, there's one path to this level of focus, and I call it the whole body mineral principle. Let me now show you what this means. Here's Jim. He has some problems with his body. He specifically doesn't have enough copper in his body. Because of this, he gets heavy brain fog, and when he is at work, he just can't seem to focus. He needs to lock himself inside a room, totally black, and set headphones on with more sad music playing. You see, when your body lacks a certain mineral, your body will need to bring sustenance minerals to that specific point inside the body. So let's say that his brain needs copper, but he doesn't have enough copper in his body to make that specific function inside the body function. So what the body then does is that it drags, for example, magnesium from his stomach to his brain where he doesn't have enough copper. So he drags magnesium here. What then happens is that you're going to lose some magnesium here, right? And your body is going to get a little bit more out of balance. And this is what creates brain fog. When your body is running less efficiently, when your body doesn't use the right minerals for the right places, your body will run less efficient and you will get brain fog. And because of this, you will in turn get worse focus and feel way worse. This is, for example, why I have prescribed Jim to have a better diet. I told him that he needs to get a nutrient-dense diet. And then he asked me, what does a nutrient-dense diet really consist of? Because there's a lot of people who say that you need to eat a lot of plants, you need to eat lots of meat, you need to eat lots of carbs. But this is what I would do if I wanted to have maximum sleep, maximum strength, maximum well-being, and a maximum focus. Well, the first thing I would add to his diet is fruits. Because fruits is this kind of underrated thing in everyone's diet that has a lot of nutrients actually. And it's really good to combine with your training, which I'm going to get into later. But if you have fruits before your training, sometimes during your training, if you're getting really tired, and definitely after your training as well to enhance your recovery. The second thing that I told him to get in his diet is animal products. And this is actually one of the most important things to remove your brain fog. Because animal products is so underrated, and the government and big corporations have gone out with massive propaganda to go against animal products. They say that, oh, it's saturated fat and therefore it's bad for you. You're going to get all of these diseases. But the truth is that animal products are one of the most nutrient-dense foods there is. Like, name me another food that is more nutrient-dense than beef liver, for example. You cannot find anyone. And you certainly cannot find any other food other than animal products that is more bioavailable, like meaning you can uptake more nutrients of that food. If you eat a lot of animal products, like actually good animal products, like grass-fed beef and pasture-raised eggs, you're definitely going to get so much more nutrients, and you're over time going to see really great improvements in your health. And these kind of animal products include stuff like eggs, stuff like meat, chicken sometimes, but try to stay away from pig, because that is a really bad thing that you don't really want to have in your diet. I mean, there's these 4 alternatives instead that is way more nutrient dense, and they certainly do not contain any parasites, which pig might do. I'm not entirely sure about that, but you know, Muslims don't eat pig as well, so try to stay away from pig for great reasons. They also have a really much worse fat to protein ratio, meaning there's way more fat and really unhealthy fat inside of pig, unlike beef, chicken, and fish has. They have a really good protein to fat ratio. You also want to drink lots of mineral water and eat lots of salt on your food. This is because salt is one of the most important things in your diet. If you don't have salt, you're going to be really fatigued. You're not really going to have that much energy, because salt, it's what promotes neural firing inside your brain, and for your neurons to actually fire in the correct way. If you don't have salts, you're going to have way less energy, and your cells is going to be way less efficient. And mineral water is just basically a supplement. You're going to have more magnesium, more of these natural bioavailable forms of minerals, so that is really great. The second thing that I told Jim to add is an anti-diet, the things that he shouldn't eat. In the terms of brain fog, an anti-diet is actually way more important than an actual diet, what you eat. Because the foods that will give you brain fog is always the foods that you shouldn't eat. You know, we're talking about processed food, we're talking about plant poisons. And these are basically the foods that is going to be super bad for you. So the first one is plant poisons. Plant poison is basically a defense mechanisms for plants. Mostly it's leafy greens, like the really dark green kind of vegetables that you see, like kale, spinach, and so on, has a lot of these plant poisons. And the plant poisons exist because the plants want to protect themselves against insects eating them. Because what plant poison does, it basically binds to different minerals inside our body. It binds to specifically calcium and magnesium, if I'm not wrong. And imagine what this does to the animals if they eat it. Like, it gives us brain fog, but now imagine what it does to this tiny little insect. You know, it's really harmful for this insect, and it can be really devastating. And that is why most insects doesn't eat just leaves out of trees, because there are so many plant poisons, right? And plant poisons is the same for us, so try to stay away from it. You can Google it up now if you want to. It's going to be that, oh, it's okay to eat plants and so on. But if you specifically have problems with brain fog, with focus, try to stay away from these. And these are mostly vegetables. And these are specifically vegetables, nuts, and seeds. They contain the most plant poisons. Because I remember being on a hike last summer. I was walking, we were buying these packets of nuts and seeds every single day, covered with honey, to have a really calorie dense kind of snacked while we were walking, right? But I was weirdly kind of brain fogged all the time. I had this weird level of mental fatigue during these 5 days that we were walking. And then I remembered after I came home from the hike, like, shit, it must actually be because of the plant poisons, you know? It must be because they are literally leaching a bunch of minerals off my body. The second thing that I told Jim to do is to find out his allergies. Because, you know, I went 16 years of my life having a gluten intolerance that I wasn't aware of. And this really caused me a lot of harm. Like, whenever I eat pasta and whenever I eat a bunch of bread, which my family normally does, you know, we eat bread for sometimes and really commonly at breakfast and in the evening, and we eat pasta during lunch and in the evening as well. And this is really bad because whenever I'm eating these foods, my stomach goes out half a decimeter because I get so inflamed by this food, and I just kind of think I get heavy brain fog as well, you know. So this is really negative. So you need to find your allergies, and Jim needs to find these allergies as well, you know, because this is one of the most important points. I actually thought about this when I went to the supermarket before. Like, you know, most people actually go about their lives having these allergies without even knowing it, because they are a little bit bad, but they're not so bad that it notices it. And this is the problem, because if you eat a certain food, you will not be able to have that same level of focus later on. So what you need to do is that you need to experiment with certain foods, see what kind of reaction your gut has to it, what reaction your brain does to it, and how you feel after eating this specific meal. And this is super important if you want to ascend, like in physical and mental terms. I also told Jim that he needs to cut out sugar and heavy carbs before doing a task, because I actually recorded this video yesterday and I had eaten so much risotto with chicken that my brain was just so bad. Like, I stuttered, I said like, and I couldn't speak properly, you know. So I recorded for 34 minutes and I completely scratched that footage because my speaking was so horrendous. Like, you couldn't understand what I was saying because I was just uttering a bunch of words, you know. It had no meaning, the words. I just said a bunch of words without actually creating a sentence. So if you want to do specifically like really hard mental tasks, you want to remove sugar and heavy carbs. You already know what sugar and heavy carbs are, you know, sugar in the form of like refined sugar, not fruits. Fruits is okay, but if you have like a bunch of carbs, basically candy, rice, pasta, and you know, heavy carbs and heavy amounts of sugar, you're going to see that you're not going to be able to focus that greatly. This is also because you want to be fasting while you are doing a heavy mental task. Most people know this, but you want to